For all you Groundhoppers out there, this podcast is for you.
Hey guys, this is the FANA Fan Podcast. I'm Ben.
And I'm Topliss, and for all you Groundhoppers out there, this podcast is for you. And tonight, we are joined by the former Tranmere, Everton, and current Ossett United midfielder. Big thank you to James Colliver for this. It is George Green. How are you, mate?
Yeah, nice to be here. Different, but yeah, happy to spend my time doing this.
Thank you very much, mate. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Season 3's off to a stormer.
Yeah, it certainly is. So, like I said again, George, thank you for coming on. We know you're a midfielder. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Is that a position you sort of always played throughout your career?
I'd say so. Generally, from being a young lad, I've gone through midfield, but I've since I come through all the age groups, probably played every single position. But yeah, midfield is probably what I knuckled down from about 9 to 10 years old.
Perfect. Well, it's sort of one of them. You get some players where they start off as a defender, and next thing you know, they're playing in midfield or vice versa. So, what is your background in football then? When did it first start for you?
From what I can remember, it started probably about 6-year-old where I used to play on the street with my brothers. I learnt a lot of what you would call street football, which is probably what made me the sort of player then going to play probably under 10s football with Bradford City. I went straight in. My mum worked at Miracles as an agent somehow, and she got me into the Bradford City Academy. And I spent all my time there up until obviously leaving to go to Everton.
Everton, massive club.
Yeah.
How did it go there?
Yeah, it would have shocked move at the time. I don't think it was expected, but I embraced it at the time very well. And I learned a lot, and it's ultimately made me the player I am today, which I'm very proud of. And I won't be the person I am today if it weren't that, which I'm also over the fact and relish where I am today, as I said, yeah.
Fantastic.
I mean, being around Everton, you must have been around some big name players as well. Is there any players what stood out or what you learned from the most whilst there?
Well, I'll name a couple that were there, and I'm sure probably people know these ones that are in the podcast now. I was very lucky to go alongside John Lundstrom. He'd been at Sheffield United. Well, he'd been at Sheffield United, played in the Premier League for a couple of seasons. Ross Barkley. He was obviously the main kid coming through at the time, and he's gone on to still have an absolute brilliant career. So I'm lucky to play alongside him. In the first team, obviously, at that time when I first signed, trained, we had Fellaini there. I've been training Fellaini. Seeing Lukaku knock about the gym when he was only a young lad. Phil Jagielka, which I remember him, he always used to stop and have time to speak to the young lads, which I also obviously planted in my head, which I remember very nice. So yeah, it was a mad time. But once being there a few years, you learn to settle that down, and it sort of becomes normality, and you're in sort of a dog-eat-dog world, and yeah, you learn a bit about football.
Yeah, you've seen them all there, mate, haven't you?
Yeah. I've been about them all, and I only have good memories. I only bring good memories back from that. And I'm a very, very lucky lad to have experienced that. So yeah.
Fantastic to hear, mate.
It was good.
Did you ever work with David Moyes? Was he there at the time as well? Was he manager? Did you ever work under him?
Yeah, David Moyes was the one that signed me. I remember when I was young lads. I was driving down to Tottenham at the time. To Tottenham, Murray Redknapp in North London derby. We were going down to meet him. Halfway going down, we had a phone call from Everton and David Moyes saying, "We want the lad to come up here." So I went up. We ended up spinning it round on whatever motorway went down there. Coming up, meeting David Moyes in his office, saying, "We're lucky to have you. We want to have you." And I remember just feeling like that was a club for me. And I've never looked back. Yeah, crazy. I can't explain what that feeling was like as a 15-year-old lad.
Was it something like this? boom, 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 boom.
You could say that. And I remember there being a shirt after him being in the office with me, and it had green 10 on the back. And from that was the moment that sold me. I remember Tottenham then, I wanted to double everything. So once I said I wanted to sign for Everton, Tottenham rang then my agent saying, look, we'll double everything. It'll be the field rise to 4 mil. We'll double his wages. And being a young lad, I couldn't be asked travelling. I really couldn't give a shit about travelling. So I just settled and went, yeah, look, I'm closer to home being up north. And I think the most sensible decision is to stay around friends and family. Ultimately, the decision probably didn't pay off. I probably should have gone down south and probably embarked on a path down there, but it weren't to be. And I'm thankful for the time that Everton gave me.
No, but mate, obviously family is everything. You want to be close as possible to him, don't you? And like we say, you said you could have gone differently. Take it from me, travelling drains you of energy. Believe me.
It was a massive decision to obviously make at 15. I lost my father at a young age, so he weren't there to probably direct me on that behalf. And I only had my mother who, she knows no knowledge of football whatsoever. She used to watch me purely for the social aspect of herself, which ain't a bad thing, by the way. She also had a life out of it as well. And yeah, I can't explain how it went. It just happened so fast that I still now haven't had time to think about it. I generally don't. I look back with nothing but good memories from it. We were brilliant.
That's fantastic, mate.
Well, there's always the stories where Harry Redknapp says, "Oh, well, I was so close to signing this player. Something happened, so I couldn't sign this player." You're just another one of those. What got away?
He'd be absolutely terrific, you know. Worry.
I'll tell you what, that's not a bad for the investment either.
It's one of them, isn't it? It's like an iconic thing. Ever Redknapp says that about you. It's the equivalent of Brian Clough giving you a.
Yeah,
I guess
it has that sense of a feeling now you said it. Yeah, it was mad because the agent I had at the time, it was from down Essex, Chelmsford way, so we had a right proper Cockney accent. And I remember, I'm sure I got to speak to Harry Redknapp at one point, but I was a young lad. I can't know exactly. I remember how it went, but I remember his little voice, proper broad Cockney voice, and it just summed up how surreal it was, yeah. Exactly
that. Well, to be fair, you've realistically got two big name managers. What's managing the Premier League? What was after you at the same time? I mean, David Moyes, like you said, he worked wonders for Everton. Now working wonders with West Ham. Had a short spell at Manchester United as well. Then Harry Redknapp. He's been Spurs, Portsmouth, you know. So you've actually got two managers what knows the English game inside out, wanting to sign you at 15.
I think, yeah, from that point of view, but also in that move, what I had to understand as well was I was still a young lad. What I got confused about at that present moment, I thought I was actually going straight into first. Oh, sorry. We're back on there.
Yeah, we're there, yeah.
You know, I had this sort of like sense of false feeling, believing I was going into first team football straight away. I don't know why. The way my agent sold me, look, you're going to be on £1,000 a week, all the shit that comes with it. And then when I actually signed like a contract, only being a 15-year-old lad, I realised that I weren't on £1,000 a week, and I was sort of confused. And I was like, nobody sat me down to explain that weren't happening. So when all these managers were speaking to me, I had this false sense of belief I was going to walk into something different. So my mindset going straight to the football club then changed. And I believed I was this big, massive star before becoming this realisation that I've still got to work to become to excel in that profession, with the profession being professional football. I fell into a sort of false sense of belief, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you hear stories even now at young lads, obviously, falling out of love. And, well, I can say falling out of love. I don't hear stories of big people being signed for the amount of money I do and really having the downfall that I did. But it becomes more apparent to young people and knowledge of people coming out of the game for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, at 15 years old, when you're on £1,000 a week, the thought goes in your head. You're probably thinking, oh my God, I can afford a Ferrari in 100 weeks. You know what I mean? You get that sort of feeling. Money comes to you, doesn't it?
Seriously, do I remember my first monthly wage? I think it went within about 2 minutes. You know what I mean? I didn't have the financial knowledge at that age whatsoever. So everything I got wasn't outgoing. I never invested and saved. And yeah, he came a bit like that. But as I say, I'm older and a bit wiser now. So yeah.
Well, it is one of them with the finances that at 15 you're not going to know what to spend it on. Like you said, to be signing for
this at school.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah. Oh, I literally were still at school. I remember moving school when I was 15 to Maricourt Catholic High School. That were in Liverpool, and that were a bit of a change as well. Obviously, moving school, but I really at the same time at that age I relished it. I love playing football, and I still do now. And I never really thought of the fame for the first couple of years there. It was only as I started earning big money that I did.
So whilst you was at Everton, you said, you thought you were going to get put into the first team straight away. Was there any sort of loan spells or anything? What you went on?
So when I was 19, I had a loan spell with Tranmere, which it started brilliant but ended absolutely disastrously. I scored obviously on my first professional debut, 1-0 draw at Prenton Park at home to Wycombe Wanderers, back when Akin Fenman played. And then I remember playing Mansfield away for them, and I think we lost that game. Is that Mansfield your team?
Yeah, man, I'm from there, yeah.
We was in a relegation battle at that point, so it was tough obviously going into a club that were fighting to stay in the Football League, let alone just getting relegation. It was massive for the club. I didn't really take it seriously. I was just there just to play football for myself and develop myself. I didn't really get caught up in what the club was going through. Was it a good loan move? Maybe. Were it not? We'll never know. But it was a stepping stone to get into, obviously, the Football League and professional football. And for that reason, I was happy. So it went well, to be fair, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the back of that, I ended up obviously leaving them and going to Oldham.
Oldham Athletic?
Yeah, I signed a two-year deal there, but I only ended up staying, I think, 3 or 4 months. It didn't work out all I wanted it to.
No.
And then shortly after that, what did I do? I think I went to Ossett Albion. I did a stint at Ossett Albion, which is obviously before Ossett United. It were the two clubs in Ossett, or one of the 2 clubs.
Yeah. The old Ossett.
Yeah, that was Richard Tracy. And I managed to get a trial for Burnley, and then I signed for Burnley from Ossett Albion. Thought I'd give it another go. Moved from Ossett to Ossett to Burnley.
Yeah.
Burnley back down. Where did I go from? Burnley had a couple of low moves at Burnley. Went to Salford.
Was that Salford City on the way up to the Football League?
On the way up, that was in the Conference North, is when I played for Salford.
Okay.
I also had a low move at Kilmarnock up in the Scottish Prem when Lee Clark was manager. Yeah, that was yeah. Exactly that.
Wow, it's a long way to go, isn't it?
We were different, yeah. How the move came about was very, very odd. But he was different, very different that time. And from that, I've been in non-league ever since that. And I love non-league, and I think also being that reason because of Ossett and the club that I'm at. Right now, at my current process in my career, I couldn't picture being with any other club.
That's great to hear, mate. And like I say, I went to Ossett back in December when they played Pontefract. And I've non-league is a bug that any fan cannot shake. Honestly, you might have a temporary spell, you don't go watch it, but you cannot shake non-league football off you when you start watching it. And there's nothing better, in my opinion, than a non-league club with a crowd that sings. And Ossett have got one of those fan bases.
I
Lovely
remember,
ground as well, by the way. Lovely ground.
One of my
Lovely fan base.
early games in non-league. It was for Ossett Albion, and we were playing Boston North End away, and it was the most coldest, foggiest, horriblest day you could ever picture. I remember coming on with like 30 minutes to go, and I gave the ball away twice. It was 2-0 up. I gave the ball away twice, and we went to 2-2. And luckily, a player, a mate of mine now, Rob Boardman, he managed to pull us out of it by scoring it last minute. And I didn't have a clue what I thought I brought myself into. I thought, it's fucking shy. These men's football just wanting to fight. But slowly and surely, as I've manned up and come through the process as well, I love every part of it. And I mean, as going back to Ossett United, I've been there 2 years now, so I see the hard work that people put into the club for free of charge every week, every day, not just every week, every day, every hour of the club. And the way they get treated, it's the culture behind it as well. You know, nobody's out there to take money out of the club either. It's a well-run club in a good community, and everyone gets involved. You know, I'd say I know every single fan there. I'm not even lying, and I think they know me as well. And I think that's important to have. You know?
I think that what you just said there is why we've got teams like FC United of Manchester and City of Liverpool. They looked at it differently from a communal aspect. Like they know all the players.
That's probably going to tie into one of your questions that you asked me later. FC United.
Yeah, but like I say, I know. I've met Rob Carroll, who I think he works at Ossett. He was on the gate when I walked in. I've met him at Littletown back in May.
Okay.
He's a lovely chap. And yeah, I mean, it's lovely. It's the beautiful game run by beautiful people. Non-league football, isn't it?
Of course, it is exactly that.
Yeah,
it's the unsung heroes, is what I call it.
Yeah. We should be grateful for the football league we have in this country. We should be even more grateful for the non-league game we've got in this country.
You know, I've been in Bulgaria recently. Obviously, trying out there. The standard, obviously, coming out of the top division to your second league, to your third leagues, the standard is just miles out compared to non-league football in England, if that makes sense. Is the difference that I see anyway in it, or what I personally saw when I was out there, were just huge. There were players playing in that league that could have easily obviously stepped into England, but in general speaking, the level of football in England were absolutely massive compared to a country like that, you know. And by the way, that goes to the whole footballing system and the pyramid in which they set out, you know. So I know Bulgaria to be corrupt as hell. There's not enough money that goes through their system with the people, obviously, that run it. But generally, it's English football. I don't think you can compete with it anywhere in the world. I sincerely don't.
Not even Brazil can do it.
Not even Brazil.
No. Well, with the home of football, really, aren't we? So we should make it how it is. We should be the ones what branches it out to the world. Yeah. And it is sort of disappointing that when we do go to the international stage, that we can only say we've won one World Cup and we've been to two finals in however many years or whatever.
It comes back to what remember Stefan, who we had on. We had a guy on who finished our season 2 who was there in 1966. He was at Wembley, and he was serving in the army at the time. And he had to go back the day after. He was back in Edinburgh. He was on duty, so he didn't celebrate it. And he said his reasoning why was because he thought that England would probably go on to win more, so he thought he might celebrate then. And obviously, it's never happened.
Jesus,
I
don't really know what to say, really. Jesus Christ, I don't know what to
say. It's a good point to make, especially when you're 2-0 up against them 4 years later and you lose, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that football for you, innit? It can just change in a matter of minutes. You can be 2-1 up, and then, like you said, a few mistakes, and you can be 3-2 down.
You know, and that's why I love it so much. It's the unpredictableness of what's going to happen. You know, 1 minute you can be up here, 1 minute you're down there, 1 minute goes that way, 1 minute ball's going. You know, it's just I can't explain it, especially when that's why I love playing it so much. You know, it's the unpredictable.
If you've watched Derby County today, that'll sum it all up for you.
no, I haven't, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've seen the highlights of the last minute goal. Well, as we've just been touching on sort of international and England, have you ever sort of been in any England setups?
Yeah, I represented England under 16, 17 and 18s. Again, to be able to represent my country, no matter what level it were at, was an achievement in itself in which I can't explain personally. I got to experience some of the world whilst doing it, which opened my eyes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Played alongside some lads, some decent lads, and I've got nothing but good things to say about the setup, which and the time that I had with England there.
So what like year we're talking here when you played for the England youth? Was it a recent?
It'd have been 2012, 13, 14, round about them times.
I was thinking, did you play alongside Mason Bennett in any of them?
I played alongside Mason Bennett. Yeah, I did. He played.
I can remember in England under 16s. I can remember I was at a game where in Chesterfield where he beat Northern Ireland 3-1, and he got man of the match and he scored twice. I was at that game because we were all obviously nearby because he's from my hometown, Shirebrook.
I don't think I played in that. I played with Mason when we were in European Championships in under 17s, and also we played a tournament in Portugal in which he played in as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I kept it. I wouldn't say close contact, nothing like that. But I've dropped a few messages in the past and stayed in contact, but nothing major, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
To be fair, I used to room share with Dele Alli at the time as well when you were a young lad.
Wow.
You say, "Wow, yeah," but you know exactly that reaction. I see him as a different lad to what everybody else sees him, and you know, so he's an absolute lovely lad. No matter what gets put out and seen about him, he's a wonderful footballer as well, and it was a pleasure to obviously play alongside himself. We had the likes of Ruben Loftus-Cheek, also in my age group.
Yeah,
he's obviously gone on to have a great career also.
Yeah.
When we talk about how we do, I'm just blessed that I've had the opportunity to grace the field with these players. You know.
Man, it's fantastic telling, isn't it? I mean, in terms of Dele Alli, his career is probably at a bit of a stalling stage, if you like. I'm sure you want the best for him. Do you think moving on from Tottenham's the best option for him at the moment?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it's time for him to embark somewhere else and go to
Newcastle United, that place.
Yeah, going to achieve what he probably should be achieving anyway. When he first stepped onto the scene, that doesn't happen by accident. That takes hard work, commitment, dedication. So that's obviously somewhere in him. I think it'll just take a different manager to bring it out of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, scoring for England in a quarter-final is not an accident. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. Sometimes players moving on, you know. I know sometimes it's not brilliant for the fans and people who have their opinions, but obviously football, as we know, it's all opinionated. Generally in the grand scheme of things, and I think he'll still go on to achieve some big things. I really do.
Yeah.
Hopefully he does.
Yeah. You've got to look at his time at MK Dons though, when he first sort of made him send that big star what he is now.
That was the time when I was at England with him. He'd not got that move. He'd not got the move yet. So I knew him from being a young lad, and now by the way, exceptionally talented anymore. Yeah, go on, mate.
So do you know him as the young lad what took that photo with his glasses on and with the phone?
Yeah. Oh, when he was a skinny young lad, you know,
yeah.
That's exactly how I remember him. Yeah. I know what you're talking about the photo now, yeah. He's with the pink glasses, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the one.
It's on the same page.
So you was talking about you love non-league football.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of any grounds in non-league football what you love playing at?
As nice as you like, mate. Don't worry.
No, the best pitch that I've played on at non-league is going to be Curzon Ashton.
Ooh, okay.
If you've ever been.
I haven't yet, mate. No, I will do soon though.
for non-league football, I cannot explain how good that pitch is. It is absolutely, it's Premier League standard without a shadow of a doubt. It's like a carpet. In terms of pitch-wise, that without no stretch of the imagination. And going back to FC United, that's going to be the best non-league ground I've physically ever played at for atmosphere-wise, outside of infield.
Yeah. Oh, mate, those. I'm going to say, I've always been a Liverpool fan growing up. Yeah. I've got nothing respect for that club, FC United. They're out of this world now, I think.
I remember playing, I think we had 2,500 now playing Salford there. That was my debut for Salford City. When they were in Conference North, and to play obviously in front of that many fans and how high the terrace felt it was at the time, it was just absolutely, it was breathtaking. It really was, yeah, it was breathtaking. For non-league football anyway, yeah, it was real.
Just how many chances they've got as well. They've got a chance for everything. I can remember I went there February 2020. And I went there just as City got chucked out of the Champions League. Obviously, they didn't get banned in the end. And they were singing, "What's it like to be City? What's it like to be small? What's it like when your passport's left in the drawer? Left in the drawer."
You know, the thing is, when I'm playing football, honestly, unless the chance aimed at me and I catch it somehow, I'll never. For me, I can personally block it out when it comes to crowds. So honestly, in terms of chanting when playing, I never hear it. And other than playing, I've never been there. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't know too much about the chanting other than what you've just told me there.
It's when you're in the crowd, mate. You hear everything.
No, I understand it from that. But yeah, I understand you saying that. Yeah.
But then again, as a footballer, that's not a bad thing to be able to sort of block out the crowd because...
it's very important. You've got to be able to duck in and want to be able to duck in and out of the atmospheres, when to be bothered, when not for them to get on your case. Obviously, when things are going bad, no. But obviously, when it might last 10 minutes and you're pushing for a goal and the excitement that everyone gets to it when you're pushing on an attack, that's a different thing that you've got to embrace, you know?
Yeah. And it's like, so one of the co-hosts, Joe, he was recently, and Jake was there as well, Rosington Main Worksop Town a couple of weeks back. I don't know if you saw the incident with the Worksop Town goalkeeper where he's gone over the fence and squared up to a fan. So that's sort of the things. I'm sure Jake can explain it more, but it's like he's not blocked out the chance. And obviously then that's affected him to go and do what he's done.
What happened with this workshop? What happened?
Well, basically, all the way through the game, a group of lads who are about year 9, year 10 sort of age, 14, 15, they've been giving him stick all game. It works up, the 1-0 down, and then in the second half, they're doing exactly the same, calling him every name under the sun. Works up, equalise, he celebrates it for like that. Works up, go 2-1 in front. He celebrated at the end of the game. I think that 80 something minute, like I can remember him turning around saying, "It's not about my family, no."
Right.
Fair enough. And then right at the end, referee blows his whistle. I don't know what was said. I think the goal is actually from Poland. I don't know if anything's racist been said. I didn't hear it, but he's gone straight up to one of the lads, squared up to him right in his face. And then all the players have come over, gone involved. The fans at the other side are starting to go, "Ooh," and all that. And he walks back on the pitch and he boots the ball towards them as well. And players are trying to count. Some of the Rossington players are having a go, trying to have a pop at him as well because it's not right. And he's let it get to him. If you know what I mean, like we get it every game, doesn't it? "You shit bastard," and all that. And some keepers get it, but
you've got to have an element of having a bit of thick skin. If obviously we don't condone racism no matter what level of football. We don't condone it in football. But at the same time, you got to have that threshold. If you're saying it was racist and it's tough to stay at that young level because we're still working lads. You know what I mean? We've still got families.
Absolutely,
we
mate.
Work hard. We're not. That's not what we've been trained to do. To look after. We've not been crowd controlled or had any training from behind that. And I do know what chants come out in non-league football, and some can be very brutal. I have been on the receiving end, and I've also heard it as well. but it's tough when we don't have the stewards that we have, or that you would at a higher level of football. So I wouldn't really know how to counteract that.
I mean, obviously, like I said, I don't know what was said at that point. I don't know whether he just was angry throughout the game. But, like, I mean, I said this to Joe off camera, like, it's a semi-final of a cup. He could have just potentially cost himself a place in the final. He could get suspended for that if the FA sees that, because they probably, no doubt, have seen it, because it did go viral. But again, if something has been said that's racist, then you've got to get the fan, not him. You've got to have sympathy for him, which I would there. But again, I don't know. I can't judge it at the moment.
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. It's a fine line. There's a fine line between what's right and wrong, and I understand that.
Yeah. But well, again, that's sort of maybe where, when it comes to non-league, sometimes you are close to the pitch. Like you can hear the players communicating, so you probably can hear a lot of the fans chants more clearly. Whereas if you're playing at a big 20,000 seat stadium, you don't.
The way I feel it is, non-league football, it feels a bit more personal. It feels a lot more on a personal level than what it would if you were playing in front of 40,000 that are potentially abusing you because you play for another team or you've done a wrong pass or something like that. But sometimes in non-league football, it can get a bit too personal. And as I say, once again, I'm reiterating, it's not fair, and sometimes it's not right in what gets said. And there's a fine line between the both.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, at non-league, obviously, you've got fan bases are typically people of the town. And obviously, players, friends, and families come and watch quite a lot as well. And there's always a bit of aggression from somebody at some point in a ground, at some point in the game. Most of the time, it's the referee who's getting it.
I'm usually one giving it.
I mean, I've done it myself when I used to watch Shirebrook Town back in my younger years, especially at referees and other managers who've had a pop as well. You know, one of the players, you give it all the time.
You know, we have tips on football pitch between obviously our opponents and obviously playing the same position and that. But for me, what's on the pitch gets kept on pitch. That's the mutual level of respect between the players. But sometimes it's just not right from a supporter's point to say what they say, you know.
Yeah.
Yep, I completely agree what you're saying there. So again, with non-league football, whilst we're sort of touching on the supporters, I know you've mentioned FC United and Manchester with the atmosphere. But is there any other sort of atmospheres where you think, oh wow, I'd love to play there again, or I'd love to just go back and visit it as a fan to be a part of that atmosphere?
Be
biased as you like, mate. You can pick Ossett if you want to.
Obviously, I play at Ossett week in, week out, and for me to get 500 to 700 fans every week is a massive achievement from the club and the players. But no, not none that have set me electrically on fire. I'm not going to lie. If we're talking about the worst we've been to,
we can make
the worst.
Yeah, why not?
Pontefract Collieries, without a shadow of a doubt. It felt like we played on a recreational park. You know what? Within the club, there's probably some great people. But if we're just talking about the place where he's going to, it's not exactly brilliant, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I know
is there a sense of
there as a football club, but yeah, it's quite
nasty.
Yeah. Definitely. I'm
You
sorry like that.
You never played at Shirebrook Town, did you?
No.
Oh, mate.
Well, whilst we're on the topic as well, we've spoken to quite a few Groundhoppers on the podcast in the time, and when we say what's the sort of worst ground, they always choose. A lot of it is Grantham Town because it's got a running track around it.
I played there as well.
So that was a good question. Is like, so have you played there? And what do you think to football pitches? What have running tracks around them in regards to sort of the fans?
I think Personally, for me, it doesn't affect me any different. A football pitch is a football pitch. So for having a running track around, it doesn't bother me. And I think I played at Gateshead as well, which also has a running track around it. I think. No difference for me. Absolutely zero whatsoever. I don't know what it's like for the fans, because I don't watch it from obviously a fan's point of view when I'm playing there. But I personally don't mind them.
Well, like I said, it's interesting because we always like to get that across, because it is just a pet hate for quite a lot of groundhoppers.
Yeah, absolutely right. I understand. I didn't know that was a pet hate. All groundhoppers. I guess when I'm watching football, of course, or when I do go to games, I want to be as close to the action as possible. And there being a running track there, no, I physically go. I'd rather not be one there. And I don't really understand the point. And also playing abroad as well. I've played abroad, obviously, in Norway and in Bulgaria. And there's a lot of running tracks around them. And it's just, personally, from watching it, no, I'd absolutely hate it. So I understand that point of view from groundhoppers all over.
Well, again, the only one I can really recreate is the London Stadium. Okay. So when you go back to West Ham and the stadium you had before, Upton Park or the Billing Ground, and then you go into London Stadium. Having witnessed both of them, it's a lot more intimidating as a fan going to the old ground than what it is to the new one, because you can tell it's not a football stadium. You can tell it was designed for the Olympics and obviously the running track. So it just wipes all the intimidation away. The West Ham fans aren't even close to the pitch, just like we aren't. So as a fan, I can sort of agree why from that aspect, from what they had before, and now it's all gone. But at non-league, I've not witnessed any non-league grounds with a running track behind it. So that's something what maybe I need to experience to see for myself.
Yeah, well, as I say, I haven't been to Grantham, and I've obviously played there. For it to be non-league, it's different, I'd say so, from non-league to. Is there any more in football league that have a running track around them? Is there any?
I don't think there is. No, I mean the only ground I've ever been to with a running track round it is Goole. So and to be fair, you're quite close anyway at Goole. So I'm not that fussed about that ground really. But in the football leagues, it was West Ham.
No, there used to be Rotherham when they played at Don Valley.
Don Valley Stadium.
That got knocked down quite a long time ago.
Right. No,
I think is it?
So by them three grounds, there's no more in English football. No?
In Europe, there's loads. You've got like Roma, Lazio. You've got
it's every award, isn't it?
Yeah.
Arthur Berlin. You've got you do them all.
Yeah, true.
I think it's
at the
European
top of my head. I think it's just those grounds. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, what would you say non-league is? If you could, would you become a fan of non-league once you've finished playing?
I've always said to my partner, no matter what happens from here on in, I'll be an Ossett fan for life. I've met some really close people throughout my time there that are friends for life. So on that behalf, I would like to experience probably groundhopping a fraction bit more than what I do. I remember last season I managed to get myself to a few locally ones being where did I go? I managed to get to Bradford Park Avenue last year. I went and watched Guiseley, but I played at Guiseley before. I don't manage to get a lot of time given that I play on a Saturday, if that makes sense. So sometimes it'll have to be Tuesday night and working. I don't manage to get myself there on a Tuesday night. But no, it's something I probably should do more because I do have a passion for it. Yeah, I do. Because I do football.
It's a good way. Groundhopping for me is the best way. If you're a football fan, for example, you don't have your favourite club, groundhopping is the way to find it. I mean, have you heard the story of Tango, Chef Wednesday fan? The big guy who always has his top off, Chef Wednesday fan, the big guy from Wolverhampton. And he said in his story that one night he went to watch Carlisle versus Sheffield Wednesday, and he said he stood with Sheffield Wednesday fans, fell in love with the people, and started going ever since.
Seriously?
Yeah, all just for going to that match that night.
But do you think that becomes from that young people getting into it from an early age, getting on? Do you know what I mean? Getting a different sort of generation into it. Because
I think he was young back then when he went. Yeah.
I'm starting to see more and more youth coming into it. Obviously, I can only really go for Ossett and a few clubs that I've seen this year, but we've started to get like maybe a group of 50, 60 young lads that come and watch every single game.
Yeah.
And I think it's absolutely brilliant because they could go pick town, they could go pick city, they could go pick somewhere local to me, but no, they come and watch Ossett, and I think it's really cool, really.
Yeah. Well, we had it before with a York fan, and he sort of witnessed it with York. They've got quite a few young fans coming through, but that can only be a positive because if you only had the older generation, what was coming to watch Ossett United later down the line, in a morbid way, you're not going to have any fans left.
When I say that being from young, obviously it has to be a new generational thing all the time. There has to never be fans coming to football, but in terms of sort of like promoting it more and more to the younger generation. But so I honestly do believe they would enjoy it more on a Saturday for them to go just on a Saturday and watch 90
100%.
minutes. The more and more you get it, the more, I don't know, the more loud it becomes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's brilliant to go watch non-league football as well. I'll tell you some goals that I've seen in non-league football that don't get cherished enough. Yeah, all right, the standard's not there, but it's a different breed and it's a different level of football, That's what you've got to expect watching non-league football. You can't expect for it to be Premier League standard or else you'll turn up to a game disappointed. It's about going and being open-minded and watching it for the passion of just the game,
Yeah.
That's exactly how I felt watching Shirebrook all those years with me old mates back then. Fantastic time. And I say it to kids at the school.
Talk to me about Shirebrook. What's Shirebrook? Come on.
No, but I mean, obviously, back then, we would have called ourselves the Shirebrook Ultras back then, but me and a few school friends, not school friends, but local lads as well.
Shirebrook?
They're in the Northern Counties. They're at step 6 at the moment. Well, to be fair, they have been ever since I stopped watching them, to be fair, when I moved out to Sheffield Uni. But honestly, I had some fantastic times watching them.
Brilliant.
And I say it to young people now, like, honestly, I mean, I work in a school in Barnsley, and obviously Barnsley are not doing so well this season. No. And I said to some lads, like, honestly, you'd have a lot more fun watching a Worsborough Bridge or an Athersley Wreck than watching Barnsley, even if they were doing, even last season, for example, when they were in playoffs. You'd have a lot more fun watching them than you would watching Barnsley, despite whatever they're doing this season.
It definitely grips you, doesn't it? Definitely grips you.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
How long have you been watching non-league football for?
Well, me obviously had my Shirebrook days, and I went to uni and I dropped out of it for a bit, and then I started groundhopping and doing my blog, and I've gone back into non-league, and I've got the bug back again. So it'd be years and years for me.
Yeah. Okay.
What
about yourself? This game. What about yourself?
Mine's probably, like I said, mine's on and off. So I've been watching United over 20 odd years, but I sort of first fell in love with groundhopping when Sheffield United were doing the pre-season game. We'd play the likes of Hallam, Sheffield FC. Sometimes we'd go further afield. So just like even Handsworth Paramore and stuff like that. So just go into those grounds and like think, oh well, these are actually grounds, and because when you used to seeing a 30,000 seat stadium week in week out, and you go to these grounds, it's just like wow. I was at a non-league ground a few weeks ago, and their subs bench was 2 bus stops, and it's like you don't get that. You don't get that in the Football League because you have to have certain things in place just to move up the leagues.
Yeah.
But I just love how unique it is. But I'd say I've probably been doing it on and off for 10 years. But over the last few years, I've took it more seriously.
Well,
just a bus stop in Yorkshire. Bus stop in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Which ground were it that had the bus stops?
can't remember. It was a Midlands ground. It might have been Rainworth. It might have not been. It might have not been the benches actually, but they did have bus stops.
No. But he's just so unique.
Teversall.
Yeah,
Teversall.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one.
It's Teversall. Yeah. So
Teversall.
yeah, they just have it. They just have quite a few bus stops, but again, it's unique. It's utilizing stuff from elsewhere and bringing it to the ground and actually making use of it.
Yeah, I understand.
Obviously, Teversall with Shirebrook's rivals, like they always still are. It's like obviously for someone like me,
Rivals as well.
Yeah, they're not. They're literally just down the road from Shirebrook, Teversall. So yeah.
Have you ever played in any sort of games, whether this is non-league or maybe even with like the likes of Tranmere or Oldham, where there's been like a local derby?
Local derby matches. Being serious, non-league, no. I've not played in too many massive derbies through non-league, no. Obviously, being at Everton and Liverpool, I played in the mini, or what they called it, the mini derby. And that's quite a buzz, but not really many fans obviously go to the 21 games. But no, I've never been involved in no fierce rivalries throughout any step in my career. No.
I think especially with like, because we had the speak, the man on the mic at Frickley, Ken. We've had him on here before, and he says to us that Frickley have got a rivalry with Stamford. Now Stamford are based in Lincolnshire; they're miles down the road, but it's only because they've played each other in massive like playoff games in the past quite regularly. Like, I mean, Ossett have got in your league now. There's quite a lot of teams in the West Yorkshire area, like Frickley and Pontefract.
Bar Ossett, I honestly don't believe. I don't honestly think I've had any from being at Ossett. No, never.
Nah.
We've had Liverpool being there. We've got Big House Town near us.
Yep.
But they're not. Bar the Liverpool that we got 1,500 the other day. Sorry, by the way, which was absolutely unbelievable. And to even be involved in something like that were absolutely amazing. So, and that fair play to every fan that came to that. And did you go yourselves?
Nah, mate. Where did I go?
Was it now?
Oh, me and Joe went to Garforth.
All right.
Because I've already been to Liverpool, you see.
But for there to be 1,500 people there, that was breathtaking to even see that from a non-league football club.
That's massive, that is.
So he's absolutely huge. But other than that, no. Other than that,
no. This is the thing though with what I believe one of the benefits from having behind closed doors games at the top levels, but still letting fans in at the non-league levels, is that it's a lot of people are still wanting to get that football fix, which has sort of meant that they're branching out to different non-league games. If you look at Hallam FC, they put a tweet out the other day. In their last 3 home games, they've got over 2,200 fans accumulated. So that's like averaging 700-800 for a game. So yeah, they'd be lucky a couple of years back if they get that just throughout the season. And it just shows you. I do think behind closed doors at the top level has made a lot of people admire non-league football a lot more than what it probably would have if football continued as it was.
Well, that's the thing, they've gone there because they were bored of no football fandom in the top level and thought, actually, I really like this. And they've caught the bug.
Yeah, it comes a blessing in disguise, really, for non-league football, without a shadow of a doubt.
And obviously, our first guest of this season, I remember speaking to him and he's told me, as a West Brom fan, that he's known West Brom fans who've got like streaks. They've not missed a game in so many years. Then lockdown comes and they've said they're not going again, though. That's it now. My streak's gone. I'm finished. I'm going to go somewhere else. Non-league. Let's go there.
It's funny about the fans in which you mentioned and how many they've gained in the past 2 years. I'm sure that I saw a tweet as well Obviously, just for Ossett that had retweeted it, I think Ossett were involved and we've gained, I think, 4,500 just on social media alone, or something close to that. And I thought that was, again, massive, and it just goes to prove how much non-league football is pushing through.
Yeah. And I personally think it should. I hope it continues to grow, because as a lover and a groundhopper, it would be great to see a lot more non-league grounds with big attendances.
100%.
Yeah, they deserve it, and these are lads that are playing it as well. We're working, we work very hard throughout the week, and to be able to have people to come watch us from on a bigger audience would only make the leagues better as well in terms of players coming through that,
Yeah.
I'm sure you thrive off that sort of atmosphere, especially if they're singing your way, you know what I mean?
I just don't believe anybody can step on that football pitch and not thrive off it. And not get a real buzz when you're seeing all these people obviously come watching you or come watching your football team. It's it does take your breath away, no lie.
Yeah.
And ultimately, they're paying your wages for you, because obviously we get paid non-league football as well, and they're ultimately paying our wages. So you've got to also have that level of respect for them.
Yeah, that is true. But again, like you sort of mentioned earlier on, is a lot of it as well is volunteer based. So the guy what's bringing in the people in the turnstiles, the ones in the kitchens, they're the ones what make the club as well. So even just they're probably proud that there's that many people coming through the gates, because they feel like it's a family. One thing I do want to touch on is when you was at Salford City, was you involved in any of the series, Salford City series? What they was doing at the time? I think it was 92.
I think briefly I was in the second one, but it was only when you could see me in the changing rooms. I remember them being around for when. Obviously, I was there when there was filming the series, but I was never a player at Salford City. I was on loan. So I saw all the cameras and everything there, and I would have been involved at some part throughout the season, but I was never involved in the series.
Right.
I think you saw me once in the changing rooms, and we were getting an absolute bollocking at half time, I think. and you got Bern and John Owen going mad, which, by the way, an absolute fucking legend of people, John Owen Bern.
Well, speaking of managers, then we've mentioned Harry and David Moyes, the lads you just said there. Who would you say is being the best manager you've played for, or the one what's guided you through football the most?
I remember a fellow at Everton who were called Neil Jewsmith, and I think now he works just throughout the FA. I remember him, just the way he individually took me out and made me practice on things that other managers thought that I had naturally when I never. He actually took his time to make me a better footballer, so I'll always remember him. But in terms of actual first team managers, I don't have a favourite, but it'll have to be John Owen Byrne for me, in terms of the managers that I've had throughout my adult playing career, if that makes sense. Probably John Owen Byrne. Just the way they got the squad going, the way they get a bunch of 18 lads together, not really having much knowledge coming from Bury. Not coming from Bury, coming from Ramsbottom, which is in Bury.
Right.
And for them to achieve what they achieved, it only comes to hard work and knowing the system. And I think they know non-league to an absolute T. And the 2 million people within non-league football as well. Yeah,
well, did work wonders with Salford City, and again, very crucial in the series what was made. So I do agree with you there.
They didn't get given the fair chance probably at Salford getting a promotion, and then never giving them that chance. I think that's when they got moved up into the conference, which I thought were unfair. But the two, I think that spending more time now for another good club within non-league football with a half-decent budget. who can probably go and achieve, and I think they're in a good place, and full credit to them.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that Salford City they move quicker than what a lot of people probably thought they would. So maybe that's one of the reasons there was always constant chop and change towards the end when they get into conference. But like you said, they deserve that shot because they've got him into the position there was. And I feel like Macclesfield, that they've now started back up. I believe that they're back in step 6 or 7. And I feel like with the money what they've got, they've got Mark Duffy playing for them currently. Robbie Savage owns them now.
Is it Robbie Savage? Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think he's a stakeholder, isn't he? One of the chairmen.
Yeah. But there's a BBC documentary on it, how when Mansfield went bust, it was on Rightmove and someone bought it. They got Robbie Savage involved. They upgraded the stadium, but now they're sort of back in non-league football. But I feel like they potentially might be the next Salford City because they've got the money just constantly up the leagues until the point where
that used to be. That probably does attract fans as well. Is the amount of money being put into non-league football. You know, there's some football clubs within I think step 7, step 8 with an absolute unbelievable budget. You know, and the amount of money knocking about probably is frightening at times. I do see the heavy duty pay slips sometimes, and there is a bit much. Let's be fair, if I think so for non-league football.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know, but we have had your current manager on our podcast already, Colliver. He spoke about his times throughout his career, and one of the stories he said, he didn't tell it fully because he won, but they had a works do down south before a big game.
Yeah.
Is this ever been something you've done sort of before a big game? Maybe a bit of a sore head.
There's countless times I've got the football with a sore head. I don't think there's been a specific time that I can pick out. Story-wise, no, I've never. No, I've always done it with my obviously friends, not with teammates, and that's genuinely being serious. That's been always one of my things. Not probably getting involved in much with the lads, you know. I tend to not do that. So in terms of no, but there's been many times when I've walked up with a sore head down to my own personal reason. Yeah, other than that, no. And I can only apologise.
No, it's not a problem, mate. We just thought we'd mention it because, like I said, Colliver had some. He had some cracking stories, especially when it comes to Christmas parties and stuff.
I've never you might know him. You can ask any lads. I'm the one that don't turn up. That has just always been me, and I don't know why. I just don't do it.
So, what about if you was going to be a groundhopper, or if you wanted to play in any stadium? Because, like you said, you've played in probably some great stadiums over your career. Is there any stadium where you think, oh, I would love to play there? And it can be anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world.
I went a bit. Well, when I was playing with the under-16s of England, I think we won a tournament in Spain. Oh, sorry, we played Spain twice just in a friendly, and we had the opportunity to go visit the Bernabeu, but like behind the scenes. And I remember we were on the Topliss team in the Bernabeu, and I remember looking down and a tear came in my eye. So I was just like, if you want to play anywhere within football. And at that time, I had a chance to probably go and achieve whatever I wanted to achieve at that age. And for me, that ground just took my breath away. It was absolutely phenomenal. How the people deal with the steepness of it for me, and how it looked like the fans were on top of you. It didn't look like you were watching. It just looked like it was a globe of people or like a globe of seats. And for me, that was breathtaking.
I can imagine, and it is one of them. Madrid probably one of the best, most successful teams in the world as well. So you're always going to get that fan base coming and watching. So it must be surreal just walking out the tunnel to thousands and thousands of people week in, week out. Arguably one of the best grounds in the world. I do agree with that one. And it's just got redeveloped.
Yeah.
What about in terms of the worst ground you potentially played at sort of not non-league level though, at sort of maybe professional level?
Worst ground professional level. Probably for me. It's a tough one. Probably Chester for me. I didn't like that. I don't know. It's not a personal preference, obviously. And Chester for me, just the lowness of it. I couldn't ever get to grips on playing with the pitch. It was quite a wide and big pitch to play on, and that always stuck out as being a bad ground to play. Not necessarily the stadium, but a ground to play on. I've never had a bad reception from fans in terms of what makes me fall out of it as a ground. Yeah. I remember going to Leamington and that being such a tough ground to play on. When the wind catches up there, because it's in the middle of absolutely nowhere, it can catch you and that can make your day quite horrible up there. But other than them two are pretty bad, yeah.
When it comes to pitches then, so it's like when you get to non-league now, there's quite a lot of pitches what are turning 4G because it's sort of like another revenue for the club outside of match days. So are you sort of a traditional player what likes to play on grass, or do you thrive off?
I've gone through the academies to play on AstroTurf, if I'm honest. I started off young on AstroTurf. I've played a lot of academy football on AstroTurf, a lot of under-21s football on AstroTurf. So for me, it's always been an integral part of my process as AstroTurf. So I don't have a problem with it if it were to happen, but there's got to be safety and protection for the footballers involved. I don't know what you like about it as fans. Obviously not. For me, like Allegate Town, I've been and watched Allegate Town. Their pitch is good. I like theirs as a national, what used to be the AstroTurf before getting into the Football League.
Yeah.
But I didn't mind them.
Well, yeah. As a groundhopper, I don't know about you, Jake, but it's near enough a guaranteed match on. You're not going to get it. You're not going to get it to spawn due to sort of rain or anything like that. Or because it's not the same as having a pitch. But I mean, again, my local team at the minute is Worksop Town, and I think with the 4G they have now, it looks miles better than what it did 3 years ago when it had just grass. So I think it all depends on what's around still. If it's just a 3G in the cage, I'm not so much of a fan. But if there's still a stadium, a part of it, like you said with Harrogate, I don't have an issue with it.
No, I've never had issues with that. As I say, roster pitches not once. I like playing on them. It gives you a very even playing field for the both sides as well, which is half the hassle. So one team can't turn up and say, look, it's boggy, it's not for us, or the pitch was shit. It's an even playing field for them both, you know.
Yeah.
Fellas, can I nip to the toilet quickly? I'm absolutely dying.
Yeah, that's not a problem, mate.
Sorry, I'll be rapid.
Right, we're back now after
apologies.
Toilet break.
One sort of final question I want to ask before we get to the major one is there any sort of players, maybe midfield, that what you've looked up to or tried to replicate your playing style from?
It's always been Wayne Rooney for me. He was probably the pinnacle football in the Premier League for me growing up. And I was lucky enough to watch him week in, week out on TV. So if I had any sort of playing style to sort of play like, it would probably be him in what I reflected on. So he was just raw talent, raw pace, raw power. He had technique in which he could clearly develop from being underprivileged as a kid, if that makes sense. That's sort of where
yeah.
it came from. So I can relate on that being from a council estate as well, you know. So for me, it was Wayne Rooney without a shadow of a doubt. I really, really looked up to him.
Well, like I said,
not shagging grandmas.
Oh dear.
Well, like I've always said, one of my idols was John Terry, but I've always said for what he did on the pitch, not off the pitch.
I was going to say, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Fucking missed his up.
Oh dear.
But, yeah, Wayne Rooney, well, record breaker, most goals for England. It's a shame he didn't get close.
I remember being away with England and Ross invited me into a room to go and play FIFA with him and Wayne, and I had a total flappy ass, and I ended up saying no, but I had an opportunity to play FIFA with Rooney, and I turned it down.
Oh man.
I know. What's your sort of favourite Wayne Rooney goal then? Because he's scored some unbelievable ones.
So many, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean the one where he's arguing with the referee against Newcastle.
Well, and then just took it out of the mouth.
Yeah.
He had the overhead kick one for what it was, but for me, 100% the Newcastle goal. Talking to the ref, pure anger, top bins.
Yeah,
and you know that sums him up as a player, and I think that's just him down to a T, you know.
I mean, yeah, but then sometimes that if you use that anger like he did to just smash the ball, it worked for him.
He channeled it well at times.
Yeah, at times.
But no, he couldn't, and that's what made him the player he was, to play with that anger, to play with that passion, which I do. You ask anybody, I've got the exact same fight and hunger in my belly, and I think that's a vital part to have as a footballer, without a shadow of a doubt. If you can't teach it, you either got it or you haven't.
Definitely. I think one of my favourite goals as well is probably one of his first ever goals when he made his name on steam for Everton. The goal against Arsenal, where he puts past David Seaman. I mean, just to run itself before it's the finisher. You knew
the very first one, yeah.
Yeah, you sort of knew from then. We've got a talent, English talent here. And
Clive Tilsley said it, didn't he? Remember the name, Wayne Rooney.
Yeah.
The moment you know something, from the moment he brought the ball down, he takes his touch in, he cuts in and shoots. Yeah, well, it's iconic, very iconic.
So what we'll do then, we'll finish off with the question we ask everyone: is if you could sum up football in 3 words, or maybe a 3-word sentence, what would it be?
I've been thinking about it all day, and I'll say it in 3 words: beautiful, greedy, and if we're doing it as a last sentence, as a third one, for me, it probably in a word, it's a passion, it's a culture, it's a religion. For me, it's a religion. It's a livelihood for some people, well, for everybody at times, and I don't think 3 words can sum it up. But it's a beautiful, beautiful game in which I love, and I'll never stop loving. Just like we all do, and I think that's why we sat here today, because we all have at least one thing in common, and that's football. And for me, that's amazing enough. It is the amount of people I've met from it, like yourselves, being it today. Yeah, I just appreciate you having me on, and anything to spread the word through football, I'll do for anybody. So I appreciate you having me on, guys.
And like I said, just before we wrap it up, thank you for coming on and sharing your stories.
No problem.
That was brilliant, that was. And just a quick shout out to Agent Colliver. You've done it again, mate. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
What a man.
What a man.